Hello retro readers and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a tier ranking video. These are very popular on YouTube and today I'm going to be doing tier ranking my least favorite books of 2020 that I read. And then tomorrow's video will be tier ranking my favorite books of 2020. Of 2020. So if that sounds like fun, then continue watching. Two things I'd like to note. One of them is that I, for some reason, can't do tier ranking anything on the actual website, which is the tier list maker. I have to steal other people's tier list things. So I got a Star Wars one behind me, but you know, just ignore the Star Wars movies on there. I had to take like a image on Google of the tier ranking list and use that instead of actually making a tier ranking list because you know, the website won't allow me to do that. Like, they'll only allow me to upload one book picture, and then like you need two or more, and it only lets me upload one. So that's why I'm doing this. Another thing I'd like to note is, so all the books that I am going to mention as my least favorite are books that I rated between 1 and 2 stars. So it doesn't necessarily mean like, you know, if I absolutely hated them, I'll tell you guys if I hated them. But some of the books is just, I rated 1 and 2 stars. So 1 star means I hated it. So if it was a 1 star, then I definitely hated it. And then if it's a 2 star, I thought it was okay. But yeah, anyways, let's just get into the videos. Okay, behind me is the tier ranking thing that I mentioned about the Star Wars thing. Again, ignore the Star Wars movies. These are not my, this isn't my tier ranking list. I just got this on Google, this image on Google. So I'm gonna explain to you guys kind of roughly what tiers I'm gonna use. So S tier is obviously superb, meaning, I guess I'll say, my most hated, least favorite book I've ever read in 2020, or ever read in general. A tier is, you know, I still hate it, but it's not my most hated. B tier is, I honestly don't remember, or meh. C tier is going to be, I could read it again, but I won't like it. And D tier is going to be, it was okay, but not my cup of tea. And then I'm not going to use F tier, so I'm just going to cut that out, I believe, if I can. But yeah, just get on with the video. Okay, first book we have is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Honestly, this book was okay. I gave it a 2 stars, 2 out of 5. Stephen King is honestly not my cup of tea, but you know, the book was okay. It was just overly written, I guess. Very descriptive and stuff, and it was kind of boring. So I'd have to put that in D tier because although Stephen King, a lot of people actually like his books, he's I'm slowly coming to the realization that he's not my cup of tea. But, you know, does that stop me from reading his books that I own? No. It does stop me from buying his books, though. Okay, next book, so that's going in D tier, not my cup of tea. Next book is Halloween Murder by Shelley Freidont. And I believe I gave this another 2 out of 5 stars. I remember thoroughly enjoying it until the very end. The ending just didn't make it worth it. But honestly, I'd put this in C tier because, I could read it again, even though I didn't really like the ending. Again, it wasn't very Halloween-y, so yeah, but still putting it in C tier. Next book is Return to Paradise by Simone L. Kelles. Actually, I should talk about Leaving Paradise, because that's the first book in the series. And, honestly, I loved this book when I was, 16, but now, 21 years old, I absolutely didn't like it. I wouldn't say it belongs in S tier. I mean, I'd probably put it in C tier because I could read it again, but it was something that I didn't really like, but I could read it again. Same goes with Return to Paradise, the second one. Yeah, I don't know. That goes in C tier. Okay, Road Rage, the Stephen King comic book. Honestly, when I think about this, I completely forget that when I talk about Stephen King and stuff and how many books I read by him, I completely forget that I read this comic book. And I read 3 books by Stephen King: Road Rage, Pet Sematary, and Night Shift. So yeah, this is going to go on B tier because like I mentioned, I don't remember ever saying that. I don't remember ever, I remember reading it, but every time I talk about Stephen King and the books I've read, I don't really mention this because I forget I read it. Yeah, I mean, it was okay. Again, it was a 2-star for me. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about The Replacements by Brenna Yuvnov. I can't pronounce her name. But yeah, this book, again, a favorite from high school. Believe I read it when I was 15, 14, around that time. And I reread it, and actually, I didn't like it. It was very slow-paced. I'm not good. It doesn't belong in Not My Cup of Tea. I would never want to read this book again. I do remember reading it and remember what happened. So it's going in A tier because, I hate it, but it's not the most hated book. Okay, coming on to The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. This is going on A tier as well because, yikes. Not as good as a movie. If you want to see me talking about all the Nicholas Sparks books that I read, then I'm gonna link it in the cards. But yeah, The Notebook was not at all that great. It's going in A tier. I feel like the story wasn't finished, and then the ending was just awful because they didn't die, but they just had sex, and that's just the ending, and it was kind of uneventful. Next book, Marked by PC Cast and Kristen Cast, Kristen Cast. This book, I remember one of my friends from middle school really, really loved this book, and so I decided to read it. I think I read it when she was reading it and didn't like it, but then I reread it this year, and I'm gonna put it on A tier as well, because I remember what happened and stuff, and I just didn't like it at all. So yeah, but it's not my most hated or a dumpster fire. Next, Nicholas Sparks book. This is gonna have a lot of Nicholas Sparks books on here. A Walk to Remember I'm putting this on actually A tier because I don't really remember much, but I do remember it being really slow and hating it, but it's still, I feel like I should put it on B tier instead of A tier because I don't really remember much. All I know is it took place in the 50s and she has cancer. Yeah. So yeah, that's going on B tier. All right, next is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is not the best book either. I honestly thought I was gonna like it more than I actually did. Does this book belong on Most Hated or Dumpster Fire of this year? I can't say it should. I don't know. Like, it was just really disappointing. So, I don't know if I want to put it on S tier or A tier. Because it was that disappointing, I'm going to put it on S tier because it was just, I really wanted to like this book, but I didn't. So, I'm sad that I didn't. And, yeah. And I'm sad that it has so much hype on it. Okay, next book, Dear John by Nicholas Sparks. This book was better than The Notebook or A Walk to Remember. I remember what happens in it. So I could read it again, so I'm going to put it in C. Do I necessarily want to? No. But, I'm putting it in C tier because I could read it again. Arena by Holly Jennings. I could read that again as well, so C tier. It wasn't as bad as, like, the other books that I've mentioned, but it was still pretty bad. Nicholas Sparks's At First Sight. Okay. Nicholas Sparks in general is just not my cup of tea. He belongs on D tier as well as Stephen King, but we're rating his books on this list, not him, so get him off there. Okay. I'd put this on probably A tier. No, I want to put it on S tier because I freaking hated True Believer. This is the second book in the True Believer series thing. And honestly, it was not at all that good at all. Okay. Jaws by Peter Benchley belongs on A tier. I did hate it, but it's not my most hated book of this year. Yeah, I don't know. It was alright, and then there was this really disgusting scene. It's very, like, sexist and stuff. And, like, it talks about the R word, 4-letter R word, if you want to know. And it's, like, basically sexualizing that word, and, that's a scene in there, and I did not like it. So it belongs on A tier. Himself by Jess Kidd. This was on my cottagecore reading vlog, which I want to do another one like that next year. Reading cottagecore books, kind of. Yeah, Himself by Jess Kidd. I remember hating it, but right now, currently, I don't, like, it's a meh for me, so it belongs in B, because I don't really remember much about it. I just remember it was super boring, super irritating, and yeah, so, and not making sense. But I don't really particularly remember much of what happens, so it belongs in B tier, which is weird because, in that reading vlog, that was my, I couldn't stand that book. But again, that was in July, and this is it's December now, so yeah. True Believer by Nicholas Sparks belongs on S tier. It is a dumpster fire, honestly. Totally S tier material. So, yeah. I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan. Actually, it was very boring, but I do remember, like, what happens and stuff. I'm gonna put it on C tier because I could read it again, but I still disliked it, you know? I don't know, like, the reason why I'm not putting it on D tier is because I don't think it's anybody's cup of tea, honestly. It's just that boring. Watch the movie instead of the book. Read the book. Okay. John Green's Paper Towns. I think, you know, I'm gonna put his book on C tier because I could read it again, although I didn't really like it, particularly this one. John Green's kind of like, well, I've only reread 2 of his books, Looking for Alaska and Paper Towns. But for me, he's like a, probably B tier for me. Or maybe C tier, I don't know, between the two. Like, I don't absolutely hate him with a bloody passion. He's just like a meh author for me. Okay, Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur is S tier material because I freaking hated that poetry. There was some awful writing on there, and it was just overall not that great. So, yeah, that belongs on S tier. I'm not much of a poetry person, but also these poems in here were very, very, very sappy and hilarious. When it was supposed to be like deeper, you know, I found it very funny. Anyways, okay, Go Mutants by Larry Doyle. This book, I remember I'm gonna put it in B tier because honestly, there was so much happening in this book that I don't even remember, like, what happens. All I know, it's like aliens and, mutants in the 50s when they're teenagers. And it was very interesting, a very, very interesting, weird read. But, you know, it just is a meh, you know, B. Okay, next is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. I reread this year, and I'm putting it on A tier. Sorry, the Irish reader. I know he really, really loves this book. He loves Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertelli. But honestly, I didn't like it very much. Well, I loved it when I first read it, but rereading it, Simon irritates me. And, yeah. I mean, it could be because I'm a Gemini, you know? I'm hard to get along with, I guess. But, yeah, I'm putting this book in A tier. The Wedding Date by Jasmine Gilroy. This book definitely belongs on S tier. I realize I have a lot of most hated dumpster fire books, okay? The Wedding Date belongs there because there was no plot. It was just about them having sex, and, you know, not that great at all. I'm sorry. My personal opinion, you know, yeah, okay. The writing was awful, and just the story in general was awful, and, yeah, S tier, most hated, dumpster fire. Okay, the last book is The House on Mango Street, by Sandra Cisneros. I believe I rated this a 2 out of 5 stars, and I'm gonna put it on D tier, which is not my cup of tea, because, you know, it wasn't my cup of tea. Like, I know a lot of people who really, really enjoyed this story and these stories and stuff, but, you know, personally, I didn't like it. I read it because I was in, my women's fiction, women's literature class, and, you know, a lot of people liked that book, but, you know, I just read it because I wanted to, and it wasn't really my favorite. So, yeah. Okay. Anyways. Yep, that's my tier list. There's what it is. Yeah, fun. Okay. And yeah, that was my tier list making my least favorite reads of 2020. Let me know if you have any favorites on my least favorites, or, you know, if you didn't like these books either, or if you never read them, I don't know, by commenting down below. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like, give it a comment, give me a subscribe if you want. I'm posting every single day until December 24th. So I'll see you guys tomorrow with my tier ranking video again of my favorite books I read in 2020. So yeah, okay. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have... Oh, no. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.